We'll begin with a peace chant from the Shvetashvatara Upanishad and then a hymn composed by Swami Vivekananda and Sri Ramakrishna. Om yo brahmanam vidadhati purvam yo vai vedanscha prahinoti tasmai tamhadevam atma buddhi prakasham mumukshur vai sharanamaham prapadye nishkalam nishkriyam shantam niravadyam niranjanam amritasya param setum dagadhendhanamivanalam om asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritam gamaya aviravirmayedhi rudrayatte dakshinam mukham tena mam pahi nityam om shanti shanti shanti. Om Shakti Samudra Samuthatarangam Darshita Prema Vijrambhitarangam Samshaya Rakshasa Nasha Mahastram Yami Gurum Sharanam Bhavavaidyam Advaya Tattva Samahita Chittam Projvala Bhakti Patavrita Vrittam Karma Kalevara Madhubhuta Cheshtam Yami Gurum Sharanam Bhavavaidyam Naradeva Deva Jaya Jaya Naradeva. The subject this evening, as you know, is the Upanishads, which I would like to look upon not as a philosophical discourse or even spiritual revelations, but as profound answers to certain very naive questions. Naive, simple questions that we ask usually. When we were children, we used to ask very simple questions. And our parents usually get irritated. And the stock answer is, just keep quiet. When you grow up, you will know. The meaning being, when you grow up, you'll forget those questions. It was Albert Einstein who said the following. He was asked the question, how is it that you came upon these profound truths of the relativity theory? He is supposed to have said, you see, when we were children, we asked very simple questions, which often appear very stupid. And when we grow up, through education, these questions are silenced. That is what education does to us. In my case, I was careful not to forget those questions. And the answer was the theory of relativity. So the Upanishad should be looked upon not as a spiritual thesis, a metaphysical exposition, or even a spiritual or a philosophical discourse. The rishis were just analyzing our daily experience. We should remember that these great spiritual truths emanated from the depths of the being of the rishis' pure minds in response to certain very simple, naive questions that they asked. We usually ask the question, what could be simpler than a question? For example, when I open my eyes, how is it that I see? Is it a question to be asked? When you open, of course you will see. How is it that we hear? The ears, poor eyes can't close, unfortunately. They're always open. How is it that my mind is able to think? The Kena Upanishad begins with these questions. Kene shitam padati preshitam manah kena prana prathama priti yukta kene shitam vachamimam vadanti chakshusrotram kavadevo yunakti. How is it that the mind is able to think? How is it that my senses are able to function? How is it that my eye is able to see? How is it that my ear is able to hear? It's a very simple, apparently a naive question. But the Upanishad Rishis are asking, is it because of the eye that I see? Is it because of the ear that I hear? Is it because of the mind that I think? Or is it something which is behind the mind, which impels the mind to function, which pushes the eyes to see, which motivates the ears to hear. They discovered behind the mind there's a consciousness which impels the mind to think and the ears to hear and the eyes to see. How do you explain this? He explained once again in a very simple language. It is not by the eye that you see, but the eye of the eye. It is not by the ears that you hear, but the ear of the ear. Shrotrasya shrotram manaso mano yad vachoha vacham savu pranasya pranaha chakshushas chakshurati muchyadhirav pretyasmal lokad amrita bhavanti. He who can realize the consciousness which is behind the eye, which makes the eye see, the consciousness behind the ear, which makes the ears hear, consciousness behind the mind, which makes the mind think, he becomes immortal. See how certain very simple questions are being asked, and when you probe these questions and take them to their depth, you get into a dimension which transcends time and space. This is exactly what science does. Science has not fallen from the skies. The scientist asks very simple questions about our daily experience. Those of you who have seen the history of science, very simple questions have been asked about how it happens. And when you ask these questions and probe them deeply, you get into a dimension which is infinite. Swami Vivekananda used to give catchy titles for his lectures. There is a lecture which he gave, which is called The Open Secret, in which he says, you take anything in this universe, take a grain of sand, take a small flower, get into the depths of it, you enter into a dimension in which it reaches infinite. Which means every object in the universe has two dimensions. One is the finite dimension in which it manifests, which you see. The other is the infinite dimension, which is the back of the finite, which you do not see, and which you intuit when you enter into the depths of this object. Just an object outside, not even the mind. The Upanishads have always asked these simple questions. As I said in the Kena Upanishad, another question which is raised, why is it that the eye always goes outside and sees? Why doesn't see inside? When you close the eye, without going to sleep of course, you see something inside. You see all kinds of things. In dreams you see various objects, which are not physical, concrete objects, but subtle objects, which are just thought. The various impressions which you have in the waking state, they come during dream, and you see innumerable things happening there. But the eye usually doesn't see that which is inside, always is focused outside. The ear always wants to hear things from outside. So the question is asked, why is it that the senses are constantly outgoing and they don't get focused on the inside? How is it that the mind always goes outside rather than getting focused on what is inside? What is inside meaning need not be spiritual. Your body, your mind, even your own body. Most unfortunately, ordinary human beings like us, we do not even know the grandeur and the beauty of the human body. I always tell my students, don't worry about the spirit or God, just focus on the body. What amazing machine that God has created. If you don't like the word God, I always tell the audience, you replace it always by nature. You simply say, Control R, replace God equal to nature. Remarkable machine that nature has given us. How the body functions is a great mystery. How the lungs are functioning, how the heart is functioning, how the digestive system is functioning, how the reproductive system is functioning. Every bit of the human body is an amazing, self-regulating, self-controlled entity whose mystery man has not been able to solve. Human beings know very little of the human brain. So it doesn't focus on the body, it doesn't focus, of course, it doesn't focus on the mind, which is so amazing. Human beings extraordinarily taken up with the discoveries. I have discovered a supercomputer which can do several thousand million calculations just thrice. But who made it? It is the human mind. Human mind, having made a computer, is amazed at the computer. So the beauty of the human mind is something which we miss. Of course, we miss the beauty of the spirit if we believe in one. He always put that rider for people who challenge the existence of the spirit. It's not necessary. Take the human body itself. There's a small book by the Reader's Digest called The Human Body. It's written for the layman, a remarkable small book which everybody should read. There it says about the DNA. All of you know about the discovery of the DNA. In 1950s, Crick and Watson discovered the double helical structure of the DNA. It is a remarkable breakthrough. It says that, I'm quoting from that book, every DNA cell has a memory which time cannot dim. How Vedanta enters there. And every DNA has 100,000 coded messages. This is what the book says. And if every one of these messages is decoded, and a typist sits down and types these messages, it will occupy 1,000 volume encyclopedia. That is the power of one DNA. And we have billions and trillions of cells in the human body, each one of us, and sitting in this multiple cell system and crying, I am small, I am weak, this man is my enemy. Are we not ashamed? Even a simple book on biology will tell you what glory you are. So the Upanishad Rishis first were wonderstruck at the glory of a life itself. They asked the question, as I said, why is it that constantly the mind and the senses are going out? Then very intelligently they put the blame on the God who created the senses. It's a very clever way of pushing the blame on somebody. As you say in English, pass the buck. There is a story about Truman, American president. It seems he used to have a placard in his table, the buck stops here. You can't push it beyond the president. So they said, this person or imperson, whoever created the senses, they call it Swayambhu. Who created him? Nobody created him. This self-created one made the senses outgoing by their very nature. And therefore, they constantly go out. If you want to focus it inside, you have to make a lot of effort. No effort is necessary for the mind to be outgoing. No effort is necessary for the senses to be outgoing. They effortlessly go out, and if you want to focus them inwardly, you have to spend a lot of energy to take them inside. This we call in physics the law of entropy. Some of you may know. Naturally, there's a degree of disorder everywhere. A closed system, if you leave it like that, then the degree of disorder in that system will grow. And if you want to bring back order, you have to spend energy. Therefore, they said, it has been made that way. Science also, we always say, if something is made that way, you don't ask why it happens. Why it happens because it happens. Because it is made that way. Why is it ice is cold and fire is hot? The explanation is fire is hot because fire is hot. It is made that way. So the Upanishad Rishis said, the senses we see are outgoing. Why I am emphasizing this is because the Upanishads talk about the state of affairs as you see now, as it obtains now. They don't speculate. They don't theorize. They don't philosophize. This is the state of affairs in which you are. Now, what are you going to do about it is to be determined. What is the state of affairs? The state of affairs in which you find yourself from childhood is that your senses are outgoing and the mind is outgoing. Who made it? We do not know. It has been made from the very beginning. And now, if you want to attain immortality, you have to turn the senses inward, desiring immortality. Some discriminating, powerful persons have challenged even the Creator God who made it outgoing and said, I shall not allow the senses to go out. I will turn them inside. That is the challenge which God gives you. God makes it outgoing and then leaves it to you to expend energy to make it inward. And he's very happy if somebody takes this challenge. Sri Ramakrishna has a beautiful song, Mother is flying kites, Divine Mother. In India it's very common, children play kites. The mother is also playing millions of kites. Perhaps one of them cut loose and the mother is so happy, she claps her hands and rejoices. So the Swayambhu, the self-created one at the very beginning, made the senses outgoing and gives you a challenge. Now what? What are you going to do about it? So I am not going to allow the senses to go out. I am going to turn the senses inside. Who is he? He is called Adhira. This word occurs often in the Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita. Adhi means viveka, discrimination. Ra means a person who possesses dhi. Dhiman, dhimati, kadamatu pratyaya, ra pratyaya. A person who is of discriminating intellect says, an enlightened human being says, I shall not allow the senses to go out. You may create it that way. I will turn the tide and turn the focus, the senses inward. Paranchi khani vidrinat swayambhu tasmat parang pashyati nantaratman kaschidhira pratyagatman amikshat avritya chakshura mritatvam Kathopanishad. These senses have been made to go out, and there are some people who are discriminating, powerful, who want to take the senses inward. Why? Amritatvam icchan, desiring immortality. This is the punchline. Upanishad says, do you desire immortality or you want to remain as a mortal human being? You have been born into this world as a mortal being, meaning that your body is going to die, your mind is going to perish, your senses are going to get old, your hair is going to turn grey. Slowly you are moving towards decay and ultimately death. This is known as bhava vikara, changes constantly which take place. Starting from birth to death, continuously things are changing. And you're moving towards death and decay. A discriminating human being says, I have to find out something behind this which doesn't change, which doesn't decay. Now the question, is there something at all which doesn't decay, doesn't die? Is it a speculation? Or is it there is something which absolutely really exists which doesn't decay and doesn't die? Suppose you say it's only a speculation because we see only decay and death. We do not see something which is undecaying. So are you imagining something which you say that doesn't decay, doesn't die? The question which is asked is the method of what is known as reductio ad absurdum. This is the method in logic and mathematics. If you want to prove something to be true, one method is you take the opposite to be true. Then pursue. And if the conclusion which you arrive at is absurd, then you go back and see that the assumption which you made was wrong, and therefore the theorem is proved. This is an acceptable, valid method of argument in logic and mathematics. Reductio ad absurdum, reducing to an absurdity. Is there something which is unchanging among the changing phenomena? Assume there is nothing unchanging. Let's see what the conclusion. Suppose there is nothing unchanging, everything constantly changes. What will be the consequence? the consequence would be that the life will become meaningless. Just think of this. The body changes, the mind changes, human beings change, your relatives change, your jobs change, your computer crashes, your software constantly is updated. Nothing in the world is constant, everything is constantly changing. You just can't pin your faith in anything. You go back home and suddenly find your house is not there anymore. Said, where are you going? My house used to be here. It was there. Half hour ago it moved out. What would life be? Life will completely lose its meaning if everything is changing. What gives meaning to life is one unchanging essence which is constant in the midst of all change. You think about this carefully. If everything in the world is changing, life will become meaningless. Now you can ask the question, what if life has no meaning? Pursue this. Life has no meaning, let life not have a meaning. What will be the consequence? Human beings will become mad. Because human beings are always meaning-seeking creatures. Science, arts, religion, philosophy, literature, everything has grown because human beings have been constantly seeking meaning in life. You ask, what is the meaning of this? What does it really mean? Unless you find meaning to something, human beings will not proceed. All knowledge is a meaning-seeking exercise. Human beings will constantly ask for meaning in life. And if there's nothing which is unchanging, life will lose meaning because a changing entity cannot have any meaning. It is here, next moment is not there. There is a funny story about a drunkard. Somebody came and told him, can you give me a loan about $100? I need it immediately. He said, no, you will not give it back. I know. You fellow, I know your tricks. No, definitely you'll give it back. Why do you trust me? Now, when will he give it back? After a week. After a week, he didn't come back. After about 10 days, this fellow goes and challenges, give me back my money. I didn't receive. I knew you'll do that. I gave you that money. How did you know you gave it? I saw you were sitting in a shop. A bull was sitting in the front of that shop. I marked you as the person who received that money. The bull went and sat elsewhere. And he is challenging the person where the new bull is, the new position where the bull is moved. So if you take that idea that constantly everything is changing, life will have no meaning at all. If life has no meaning, your existence will be futile. So it is not philosophy, it's just bare truth. In order to live sanely with purpose and meaning, you need to have something which is unchanging. And therefore the Upanishad, the Rishis said, there is one unchanging substance in the midst of all change. And something which is unchanging. What are the characteristics of unchanging entity? The simplest truism, an unchanging entity by definition is that which doesn't change. It's a truism. If it doesn't change, what happens? It is never born, it is never dying. Because if it is born, it will grow, ultimately decay and die, so it should never be born. If it is never born, it should never die. That shows it is eternal. What is meant by unchanging? Where does change occur? See, these are simple questions that the Upanishad is asking. What is meant by change? I am sitting here this moment, I go and sit there. Today I am in Hollywood, tomorrow I am in Trabuco, day after I am in San Diego, after that I am in Calcutta. So I am constantly changing my position. So change occurs in space, or I am sitting here with that movement. Suppose I am sitting here constantly for 3 years. And you come and see, oh Swami, you have grown older. I saw you as a child and you're so chummy and so bright and young. You have grown old. you grow old, you change in time. You change either in space or in time. Change means either spatial or temporal displacement or movement. It's very simple. So if it's a change spatially and temporally, that which is unchanging should be constant in space and constant in time. That means it should be beyond space and beyond time. That which is within time, within space, will be always subjected to spatial or temporal changes. If it is beyond time and beyond space, it should not be affected by causation. Because what is causation? Causality means cause and effect. And causality cannot have meaning without reference to timing. I have a very bad cold. What happened? Yesterday I got drenched in the rain. Yesterday I got drenched in the rain. Today I have a cold. Suppose somebody asks you, oh, you feel feverish? What's the problem? Tomorrow I am going to get drenched in the rain, so I am feeling feverish today. How does it look? You can't say that something is the cause which will happen tomorrow. Yesterday is the cause, today is the effect. Today is the cause and tomorrow is the effect. So causation always means a sequencing of time. Without timing, causation has no meaning. Therefore, if something is unchanging in space and in time, it cannot be affected by causality. These are simple answers which Upanishad gives. Upanishad says this unchanging entity has to be beyond space, beyond time, and beyond causation. If it's beyond causation, it is not born, it never dies. They call it in Sanskrit ajata. Ja means to be born. From the jan dhatu, janor ja, that's a sutra. Jan is replaced by ja. Janma, birth. Jata, that which is born. Ajata, that which is not born. So it is never born. If it is never born, it never grows. It never grows, it never dies. Never decays and dies. So this unchanging entity has to be beyond time, beyond space, and beyond causation. If it is beyond space, time, and causation, space and time can't hold it, causation can't touch it, then it has to be infinite. Why? Again, apply the reductio ad absurdum. Assume it is finite. I assert it is infinite. You ask why. Then I say, assume it is not infinite. Suppose it is finite. If it is finite, it has to be within the bounds of space and time. What is the definition of finiteness? This table is finite because it is contained in space. That which is infinite has to be beyond time and beyond space. Vice versa, that which is beyond time, beyond space, and untouched by causation has to be infinite. If it is infinite, it has to be one. Why? Again apply reductio ad absurdum. If it is not one, there will be two infinities. There are two infinities, as Swami Vivekananda said. One infinity will limit the other, both will become finite. Because this infinity is coming and pushing that infinity, and this infinity says, no, come up to this. Like two regions coming together. Your region up to this. And human beings are so funny, even airspace is being demarcated. This is my space, Antariksha, not the earth. Earth, of course, we do that. As Sri Ramakrishna said, God laughs on two occasions. In the Gospel it is there. One occasion when two brothers quarrel and then have a tape and say, this land is mine, that land is yours. Then God says, the entire earth is mine. And another occasion when the doctor says, don't worry, I will cure your son. God says, I am going to cure him, and who are you to say I will cure? Not even the earth, even the space above, the airspace. We talk about encroaching upon the airspace. We demarcate, this is my space and that is your space. If two infinities exist, then each infinity will encroach upon the other infinity's jurisdiction. Both of them will remain finite. And therefore, infinity has to be one. If it is one, that has to be you or me. Because, once again, the reduction ad absurdum. If you say it is not me, then there has to be an infinity apart from me. That means there will be two. Infinity cannot be two by definition. And therefore, I am that infinite. Tattvamasi. So they come to this extraordinary, simple conclusion by analyzing basic facts, asking simple questions, and get the profound answer, I am that infinite. It's called Aham Brahmasmi, it's called Mahavakya. Mahavakya are very profound statements. Maha means big. Mahaswami is sitting here. Not ordinary yoga, Maha Yoga. Maha means something which is big, Mahan. So this infinity is expressed in a very simple PC statement. The Guru says that you are. Tat Tvam Asi. Tat, that infinite, Tvam, you are. Why? That infinity you're speaking about is not apart from you. You are that infinity. Remember, it's an identity statement, not an equation. And once again, in science, we say equal to A equals B, you put 2 lines there. But A is identically equal to B, you put 3 lines. All of you know from simple physics or mathematics. That means when you say identically equal to, it does not mean A equals B. What is A itself is B. That, the infinite, Tvam, the little being which you think you are identical. That means you now are infinite. When the Guru says this, Tat Tvam Asi, immediately the disciple says, Aham Brahmasmi. Aham, the little entity called the I, which I imagine to be small, little, finite, I realize is Brahman is infinite. The moment you realize you are that infinite self, unchanging, undecaying, unborn entity, then what happens? Nothing happens. We want something to happen, that's the problem. You realize your infinite self, and you remain as itself. Not that you are not remaining earlier, you were that. Ignorance came and told you, and you are that small self. I imagined, I am small, I am little, I have a headache, I have a stomachache, and this man is my enemy, that man is my friend. All imagination ceases, the illusion vanishes, and suddenly you get awakened. This is called awakening to the spirit. It's called Jagarana. Are we not awake now? Vedanta says, you are sleeping, although you imagine you are awake. The waking state in which you are is a state of deep sleep of ignorance. Uttishtata jagrata prapyavaran nibodhata. Swamiji was very fond of the statement in the Kathopanishad. Arise, awake. You arise, but you are not awakening. When will you awaken? Bhagavan Shankaracharya in the Bhashya in the commentary says, Anadi Ajnana Maya, the Ajnana, the Maya in which you are sleeping, when did the Maya begin? You do not know when it began. The beauty about ignorance is that it has no beginning, but it has an end. How can something which doesn't have a beginning have an end? One great philosopher, J.N. Mohanty, he teaches in US in Temple University. He comes to Calcutta very often. He gave a very simple example, a very ordinary, naive example. How can ignorance not have a beginning but have an end? He said, you know what it is like? Do you know French? No. From when did you not know French? Tell me when, from when? You say, I don't know French. From when you did not know French? Well, I don't know French, that's it. There is no time from which I did not know French. So the ignorance of French has no beginning, but the moment you learn French, the ignorance of French ceases. So ignorance has no beginning but has an end. So it's called anadi avidya. These terms are used often in the Vedanta, but we think they're very mystical. There's nothing mystical about it. It's a simple truth that you do not know when this began. The disciple comes and asks the Guru, Sir, if it is true I am the infinite, why is it that I did not realize it so far? The Guru says, because you are in ignorance. I was in ignorance? When was in ignorance? When did it begin? I have no answer. So Vedanta therefore says, Upanishad says, don't ask theoretical questions. How does it help you if you ask when it began? Suppose I say, it began 10 million years ago. Are you going to be helped by it? Don't ask theoretical questions. You are now seeing that you are in ignorance. Do you realize it? That's why Swami Vivekananda said in the Jnana Yoga, Maya is not a theory, but a statement of fact. What we are and how we are. I now find myself in a state of ignorance. How do I know it? Because I think I'm weak, I think I'm small. But logically I have concluded, I have proved that I have to be that infinite self. The logic which I told you. So I realize that I have to be the infinite self. But why is it that I'm not realizing I'm the infinite self? Because you are in ignorance, you are sleeping. I was sleeping at that time. Was it an imagination? Is it a speculation? Swami Vivekananda is challenged by somebody. Swami, you are talking about immortality of the soul, infinity and so on. We don't believe that. I feel I am small. I feel I have a small little family and I have an income, I have a credit card, I have a bank balance and I have a headache, I have a stomachache, I have all kinds of problems. And you say I am that infinite self, undecaying, I am deathless. You are hypnotizing me. Day by day, in every way, I am getting better and better. Go on repeating it 10 times till you go to sleep. So you have a sedative, go to sleep and pay heavily the psychotherapist. That's what you do. Swamiji was challenged. You are hypnotizing us. Swamiji had such a wonderful way of retorting. No, exactly the opposite. I am dehypnotizing you. You have hypnotized into believing that you are small, you are little, you are encased in this body and mind complex. I am dehypnotizing you into believing and knowing and realizing you are that infinite self. That's your true nature. Unfortunately, you have hypnotized yourself into believing this. Why? How? I don't ask why and how. Because I do not know when I began to hypnotize myself. I find myself in this hypnosis. I try to dehypnotize myself. So he defined Vedanta as the science of dehypnotization of oneself. It's a wonderful way he put it. So I see that I am realizing myself as the spirit, as the infinite. When I realize that, I wake up from the anadi avidya, the avidya which has no beginning. When I wake up, I never go back. Swami Ashokananda tells a beautiful story. You never were in ignorance. You are always full of knowledge, but somehow he imagined it that way. A child was afflicted with a serious fever. The temperature shot up like anything. He became delirious. In a delirium, you see all kinds of illusions. In hallucination, it saw its nose has become huge like the tusk of an elephant. The child says, Mom, why is it that my nose has become like that? The mummy said, my child, nothing has happened to you. You are perfectly all right. You see your nose? No, I'm seeing it. You are cheating me. No, I want to find out why. Now the kind, compassionate mother knew no point arguing with the child when he's delirious, was having high fever. The mother says to the child, you see, you worship Ganesha, the elephant god? Yeah, Ganesha, I like him. Ganesha, because he's out of grace, out of compassion, out of blessing, he has cut his tusk and put it on your nose. Oh, is it so, mommy? Ah, that's wonderful. Now take this medicine, sleep. The child took the medicine, slept off. Got up in the morning. Mommy, nothing has happened to my nose. I told you that. The scriptures the Upanishads and the Gita and the great teachers tell us that you are that self. But we say, no, I am not feeling I am that self. I know I am small, but you are cheating me. Then they give tentative answers. Shankaracharya raises this question in the Aitri Upanishad Bhashya. In the commentary he says, the Upanishad gives peculiar explanation for creation. Shankara says, why is it that the scripture gives such funny interpretation? He says the scripture is not interested in expressing how creation began. Creation never happened. But if we tell you that, you will not believe, you will not listen to it. So it gives a tentative explanation for a person who is in a stage of delirium, so that when you come out of this, you will yourself realize that it is not true. So the scriptures give various kinds of definitions. The ultimate truth is you are that infinite self. And if you realize that, even infinitesimally, if you feel it in the depths of your being, even imagine it, it gives you tremendous elevation and joy. I was always thinking, I talked to one of these psychotherapists here, so why don't we start a Vedantic psychotherapy? It's extremely necessary. Through Vedanta, to tell people you are that infinite self, all the sufferings which you are undergoing are all illusion. You will never suffer. So why not try this for a change? So we have assumed the mind to be real, the body to be real, and acting on the body which is real and the mind which is real according to the psychology. You are trying all kinds of things in the body and the mind. Why not start from the other end and assert your higher self and see how it happens? The first Vedantic psychotherapist, Swami Vivekananda, tried it on an extraordinary lady called Emma Calvé. Emma Calvé was a French opera singer and an artist, an actor, great celebrity in those times. As most celebrities are, she was extremely upset, depressed, frustrated, even wanted to end her life. Somebody told her there's a great Indian yogi, you can go and meet him. She came to meet Swami Vivekananda in his study. Swamiji was writing something, did not even look up. The moment this lady entered, Swamiji blurted out, "Oh, what a terrible atmosphere you brought with you. Calm down, my child, calm down." She sat in his front. Swamiji looked into her eyes and spoke about certain innermost secrets of Calvé, which she had not shared with anybody. She was flabbergasted, frightened, confused, cried out, "Swami, how could you know all this? Did anybody talk to you about me?" Swamiji smiled and said, "Is it necessary? I can read you like an open book." Then he gave him the Vedantic psychotherapy dose and then told her, "You see, don't secretly brood over your sorrow. You are not a little entity encased in this body and the mind. You are that infinite self. Come out of your sorrow by realizing your infinite nature." The great spiritual impulse of this man, who was speaking with power, not like scholars, as about Christ it is said, he spoke with authority and not as a scribes. That went deep into her. She was losing her individuality. She got frightened again. Swamiji used to make fun of the Westerners particularly. "You people are afraid of losing your individuality." And he used to say, "You are not individuals yet. You shall be when you become universal." Then he said, "Swami, you are taking something away from me. I can't stand it anymore." Remember, the same Vivekananda, when he was Naren, he was crying out to Sri Ramakrishna about the same thing. Sri Ramakrishna asked him, "Naren, this is a beautiful syrup, very sweet, and you imagine to be a bee, how would you sip it?" He said, "I'll sit in a corner, put my neck out and carefully sip this. Why are you so much afraid? I may fall into it and die." Sri Ramakrishna smiled and said, "You fool, this is the syrup of immortality, and you will not die when you fall into this. And when Ramakrishna touched him and wanted to give him the highest spiritual experience, he cried out, "What are you doing to me? I have parents at home." That Naren who said, "I am afraid of losing my individuality," later on from the world pulpit he cried out, "Never forget the glory of human nature. Buddhas and Christs are but the waves of the infinite ocean which I am." He used to strike his chest. Mayananta maham bodho ascharyam jiva vichaya ujjanti ghranti khelanti pravishanti svabhavataha Ashtavakra Samhita. I am that infinite ocean of consciousness in which so many waves are rising, the worlds and the jivas, everything is rising in the waves and falling down. I am that infinite ocean. You realize yourself as an infinite self, aham brahmasmi. And the infinite is its effect. So recorded in the Upanishad. Upanishads, Rishi suddenly realizes, aham vrikshasya reriva kirti prishtham gireriva urdhvapavitro abhajaneva samrtamasmi dravinagam samarchasam. Taittiriya Upanishad. The Rishi says, I am so vast and so big. My glory is like that of a mountain. So realize yourself with the infinite, you can't contain the joy which you have. All of us are running after joy, pity joy from the outside. So the Upanishad says, turn your eyes inward, infinite will be your joy. Another simple question, the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. The great hero, the Yajnavalkya, he often goes to Janaka. Whenever he needs some money, he goes to Janaka. Cows were the cattle those days, were wealth. So Janaka asks him, "Oh Yajnavalkya, you have come to me. Do you want to discuss Brahman or do you want some cows?" He says, "Ubhayam vaya samrat, I want some cows also, and I will discuss Brahman and get some cows." That was the wit. Janaka sometimes used to find out what is the level of these great scholars. They are not merely intellectual scholars, they are men of God, rishis. He suddenly announced in the court, "I have 1,000 cows, and attached the horns of each of these cows is a huge amount of gold. Any one of you who is the greatest of the knowers of Brahman, Brahmishta means knower of Brahman or knower of the Vedas. Brahma also means the Vedas. You can take these cows home." Who will dare to say, "I am the greatest"? Of course, humility prevents you from saying that. Suppose I ask any one of you, which one of you is the greatest scholar? Nobody will stand up. Everybody will look, who is standing up? Let me see. So everybody is hesitating to get up. The Yajnavalkya smartly gets up and tells his disciple Shamashrava, "Take these cows home." It's a big furor. People are up in arms. "Are you the Tvam Brahmishtosi? Are you the greatest knower of Brahman?" Yajnavalkya's wit. "I bow down before the greatest knower of Brahman, but I badly need those cows." Then ensues a debate. There is a story. Remarkable debate in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Question after question is thrown, and how he answers these questions. Now and then he will come to Janaka for discussion. Once he comes to Janaka, Janaka asks him the question. See, simple question, naive questions and profound answers. So what is the light by which we function? We function in this world, we get up in the morning, we take a bath and then have a breakfast and then run for the office. If everything is totally dark, we can't function. What is the light by which we function? What is the light by which we move around? Then he said, the light of the sun. If the sun sets, what is the light by which we function? By the light of the moon. You see, very, very simple, apparently simplistic and naive questions. When the sun sets and the moon also sets, what is the light by which we function? By the light of fire. All this is fire. Now electricity, those days fire. When the sun sets and the moon sets and the fire is extinguished, what is the light by which we function? By the light of vak, speech. Suppose this room suddenly becomes dark. You can't see anything. Then you say, hey, who is there? Oh, please wait, I'm moving this way. By vak. When the sun sets and the moon sets and the light is extinguished and speech is also hushed, what is the light by which you function? By the light of the Atman. See how they come to the discovery, there is some light within by which you function. Astamita aditye yagyavalkas chandramas chastamite shantayam vachi shante gno shantayam vachi kim jyoti revayam purusha. What is the jyoti? Then by the light of the Atman. What is this Atman? Katama atmeti yoyam vijnanamaya praneshu hridyantar jyoti purushasya samana sannubho lokavanu sancharati dhyayativa lelayativa. Shankara's very favorite verse. As if it is moving, as if it is meditating. Praneshu hridi antarjyotihi, this light of consciousness which is lighting up your heart. Jyotira jyoti ujjvala hridi kandara tumitama bhanjanahar. Swamiji wrote this. You are the light of lights which is shining up and lighting up the cave of the heart. And you are beyond all darkness. This is the light by which man functions. What is that light? The light of the Atman. The discovery of the light of the Atman, is it a theory? Is it a speculation? It is an imagination? Then ensues the demonstration. Actually, you see it in daily life. Where? What is the light by which you see dreams? This is a daily experience. It's not an imagination. When you see dreams, you see so many objects moving around. All of us see dreams almost every day. What is the light by which you see dreams? There is no outward light. So there has to be an inner light by which you are able to see objects and move around. That Atman, which is shining in the Swapna, that is called Taijasa. Taijasa is full of light. So the light of the Atman is shining at all times. It is Taijasa in dream, and it is Vaishvanara in the waking state, and it is Pragya in the sleep state. Beyond the three states is called the Turiya. So one by one, from daily experience, by analyzing a daily experience and asking fundamental questions about your daily experience, you come out with very profound answers. So the Upanishad Rishis were simply sitting down asking fundamental naive questions about your daily life. You take any of the Upanishads, Shvetashvatara begins, where is it the world has come from? What is the cause of this world? Nasadiya Suktam, the Vedas. Who knows the secret? Perhaps the God of gods in the highest spheres he knows, or perhaps he also knows not. The secret of the existence, secret of creation, where we came from. Science is also groping in the dark. Now it comes to after groping in the dark, finally it has come to total darkness. It is called black matter. Black matter, black energy, dark energy and dark matter. So dark energy, when I was reading the dark energy, which is now being spoken of as the origin of creation, Kali is dark energy. Kali is dark because Kalo, and energy is Shakti. But only Kali is conscious. But according to Sankhya, Kali is not conscious. Kali is Prakriti. The conscious is the Purusha which gives consciousness to us. So science is also groping in the dark. Exactly as in science, the Upanishad Rishis were investigating constantly and asking fundamental questions. Taittiriya Upanishad. The son goes to the father is the guru, and then asks, sir, what is the Brahman you're talking about? Adhi bhagavo brahmeti. You tell me, what is the Brahman? You constantly say Brahman, God. Then the father says, that from which everything arises, that in which it is sustained, and that into which it ultimately merges, that is Brahman. Yato va imani bhutani jayante, yena jatani jivanti, yat prayante visammishanti, tad vijigyasasva tad brahmeti. Oh, that's Brahman. So how do I get this? Tapasa Brahma Vijigyasasva. Go and meditate, do tapas. Tapas is a wonderful word in the Upanishads. Tapas is penance. Tapas is inward focusing of the mind. Shankara gives the definition of tapas, quoting from the Mahabharata. Manasasindriyanam cha aikagryam paramam tapaha. Aikagriya, focusing, concentrating the mind, purifying the mind and the senses are higher forces about the Atman. That is called tapas. And the sun goes away. Bhrguru vaivarunihi. Then he goes and meditates, does tapas and comes back. Sir, I have now found out what is Brahman. What did he find out? Everything was only matter. From matter, science. From matter, everything rises. In matter, everything is sustained. Into matter, everything goes. Annadyeva khal vimani bhutani jayante. Annena jatani jivanti. Annam prayante visamvishanti. Tad vijigyas, tad vigyaya. Having known this, punareva varunam pitaram upasasara. Look at the Upanishadic method. Inquire. And the father, the final answer. He says, yeah, go on, investigate. Then the Guru says, good, go on. Tapasa Brahma Vijigyasasva. Again do tapasya. Till the disciple understood, oh, perhaps there are further layers. Otherwise, why did the Guru send me back again? Again he meditated. Tapasa Brahma Vijigyasasva. Tapo Brahmeti Satapo Tapyata Satapas Taptva. Having meditated, having done tapasya, comes back. Sir, I have realized something higher. It is not only matter, there is prana, there is animation, everything is animated. The whole world is one of animation. So there is an energy, there is an animation, it is not merely matter, it is force and energy. From energy everything rises, in energy everything is sustained, into energy everything goes. Pranadhyeva khal vimani bhutani jayante, pranena jatani jivanti, pranam prayan avisamvishanti iti. Tad vigyaya. Having done that, punareva varunam pitaram upasasara. Varuna Aruna comes to the Guru, the father. Sir, I have now understood this. The father doesn't say yes or no. Yes. Go, meditate again. Tapasa Brahma Vijigyasasva. Till he goes to further layers. He says, now I have understood. It is not only prana, it is the mind, bhava. So many ideas. You live in the world of ideas, in the world of thoughts, as in dreams. The whole thing is animated by, completely enveloped by thoughts. The thought world, in which everything rises, in which everything rests, everything goes. Yeah, it's good. Again go, meditate. Then he goes to Vijnana, which is the buddhi, the higher intuition, intelligence, and finally ends with Anandamaya. Anandadhyeva khal vimani bhutani jayante, anandena jatani jivanti, anandam prayante visamvishanti. This is the Arani Vidya. The Upanishad ends with that. So the Upanishad, everything is only Ananda ultimately. The word dukkha occurs nowhere in the Upanishads. Only in one place in the Shvetashvatara Upanishad, dukkhantam is mentioned, the end of dukkha. The idea of dukkha perhaps was introduced in the Indian spiritual lore by Buddha. Before Buddha, the Upanishads, rishis were always dancing with joy. Then when you realize the self, what happens? You are overwhelmed with joy. Then you cross over the Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya. Edad Annamayam Atmanam Upasankramya, Edad Pranayam Atmanam Upasankramya, Edad Manomayam Atmanam Upasankramya, Edad Vijnanamayam Atmanam Upasankramya, Edad Anandamayam Atmanam Upasankramya. Having attained all this, Kamanni Kamarupyanu Sancharan, Edad Samagayannaste. He is singing for sheer joy. How, ahamannam, 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 ahamannado, ahamannado, ahamannada, ahagga shlokagrit, ahagga shlokagrit, ahagga shlokagrit. He realizes, I am that infinite self. Oh, I thought I am the small little entity. I am all that exists. The entire world is me. I am the world and the world is me. And I am all that exists. I am the Anna, I am matter. I am the creator of Anna, I am the enjoyer of Anna. There is nothing besides me. and then he sings and lives a life of great fulfillment. What happens to him? He becomes a source of great blessing to humanity. His very presence purifies the world. Therefore, in the Sanskrit there is a statement, Santo tapasa dharayanti. Entire world is being sustained by these great saints, by their tapas. Even now, there should be hundreds of thousands of people all over the world in various religions, saints who have realized God. They don't come out. They don't preach. Vivekananda said, Buddhas and Christ are second-rate heroes because they come out and started preaching. The first-rate heroes, the great men of God, they never come out. They are content to live and love and pass away. If a realized soul sits in a cave and sings 5 holy thoughts and passes away there, these thoughts will penetrate the walls of the cave and catch and fasten on to some heart and work out there. Vivekananda's statement. So this blessing, he becomes a blessing to humanity. What ultimately happens? Sarva bhuta hite rataha. He becomes a great benefactor of humanity, and he constantly does good to the world. The only good that you can do to the world is by realizing the Spirit and realizing your spiritual nature. The greatest blessing that you can bring to humanity and to yourself, to realize your higher nature, which you actually are. It is not a theory, it is not a speculation, it is not philosophy, it is not imagination. It is the truth which has been realized for thousands of years in India, documented, handed down, now rejuvenated, reinforced, reinvigorated, recharged, re-energized by Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda and Sharada Devi, Brahmananda and scores of disciples. And we are blessed to be sitting at their feet and discussing this age-old question that we are that infinite self. Thank you.